What is going on, you guys? Petplatypus here. You read the title. This is going to be an anime discussion talking about the use of CGI in anime, the pros, the cons, how it benefits the creators, how it benefits the audience, when I personally think it should be used, and my general opinion on it. So, let's roll intro and get started. So CGI in anime, love it or hate it, it exists. So, if I'm going to talk about the general reaction for most people, it's pretty much hate. Like I said, generally. I'm sure there's people who like it, or there's people who are tolerant of it. A lot of people, though, you watch the Berserk trailer, they're going to say, don't ruin it with CGI, blah, blah, blah. My opinion on CGI, I mean, I can tolerate it, but only if it's not sticking out too much and if it blends reasonably well, like in Resurrection F. Resurrection of Frieza, as I like to call it, because I think Resurrection F is a stupid title. um, so yeah, the CGI worked in that movie, and I think it worked pretty well in the Berserk movies, but I can definitely see why there's a general dislike of them. While I can tolerate it, but I prefer 2D, if it blends well enough, it's okay. Whatever. Generally, I can see why there's a negative reaction. In Japan, the fucking CGI tends to look like a fucking video game, but not a well-made one. It tends to look stiff, it tends to look out of place, it tends to look awkward and not as dynamic and cool as the 2D animation, which is a shame and makes no sense because, excuse me, it makes no sense because CGI, I'm mixing up my words, blah, blah. What else is new? Pep Platypus here. What was I saying? CGI can be used very dynamically. That's the thing, is that if you watch something like Ruby, which I personally enjoy the series, it's a little like, it's like not an anime, but kind of an anime made by Rooster Teeth. If you watched it and said it was the most cringing thing you've ever seen, I will not argue, but I personally enjoyed it, kind of like a guilty pleasure series. But it has its merits, and one of its merits is the fight choreography and fight scenes, which take full advantage of the fact that the show is done in 3D graphics, it's done in CGI, and they sweep through canyons, they drive on highways with cars flipping everywhere, they do all kinds of crazy camera angles, and all of that works because it's in 3D, it's in CGI. If it had been 2D, flipping those cars and all the dynamic sweeping and animating the environment itself around them, it would be extremely expensive, it would be extremely time-consuming, and it's just easier to do it in CGI, and it also just looks nice, generally, because it's taking advantage of what it is. For some reason, at least from what I've seen, CGI is used, like, when I saw footage of Kingdom, aside from, like, the big crowd shots, because I think crowd shots work, and I think you can use it for environments as well, because I really enjoyed the Battle of Gods sequence where Goku and Beerus are fighting in the city and there's going around through buildings and under bridges. I loved all that, so it can definitely be used well for environments. It can definitely be used well for big crowd shots and big war scenes. But I think straight up, like, actual character models fighting in CGI, they better be damn good or it's going to look really weird and not nearly as dynamic as it should. So hopefully Berserk doesn't have that problem, because I enjoyed the first volume of the Berserk manga. I should have a review out pretty soon for that. But I enjoyed the first volume, so I definitely want to see it adapted well. I don't want to see the CGI looking all stiff and shit. And it's weird how video games tend to look actually a lot better. Like, I was looking at Kingdom, right? And I'm like, okay, CGI, not really a fan, looks kind of weak. Then I turn around and I look at Asura's Wrath, made by CyberConnect 2. And if you haven't played Asura's Wrath, you should play Asura's Wrath because it's awesome. And it's basically an interactive anime with QuickTime events. It's really not a game so much, but it's awesome. And I'm watching that, and I'm like, this is badass. It looks great. I'm not going to say it looks better than Kingdom or whatever, but the character models look great. Their animations are good. The fight choreography is badass and dynamic and cool as fuck. And then Kingdom just looks stiff and basic and meh. I saw a trailer for, what was it? What was that one game called? Nino Kuni, maybe? It was like an RPG that came out a few years back. I believe another one's coming out with a very similar art style. I was looking at the trailer and I was like, you know, if a CGI anime looked this good, I'd be fucking fine with it. But for some reason they don't. So, you know, and they're video games. You think it's so weird, but yeah, and it's also very fucking weird. I hate to be on so many tangents, but it's also very fucking weird that these companies, these, you know, not game developers, but these animation studios, they use CGI like a novelty in movies a lot of times. You usually see them in movies and specials, and it's like, why? Like, why? The cheaper alternative that's not as difficult to animate, you use as like a special novelty for movies. Like, that makes no sense at all. You'd think you'd be cutting corners on the actual episodes, which thank goodness they don't. Well, for most series. Like, I'm really glad. I fucking really commend that the fucking One Piece series has, like, basically no fucking CGI. That's insanely awesome, considering how many episodes they've had to do for it. I think Naruto had CG and shit for, like, a really long-running series. I'm not sure, but the fact that they don't for One Piece is pretty fucking insane. But, yeah, it's just, you know, don't advertise it like it's a fucking, like, oh yeah, we're gonna use CGI in the movie because that's like higher production value, and it's really not at all. I mean, maybe making those models costs a bit more money, but once they're made, they're done, and you just have to move around like puppets. You guys know what I mean. It's not as difficult as 2D animation. It's probably not overall as expensive as 2D animation, and it's just very strange that they choose to use it the way they do, but, you know, whatever. But yeah, like, I remember watching Avatar The Last Airbender, and I see, like, the big blimps in the finale, and it's like, okay, these things look like they're CGI. It gives you a full scope of their size and how, you know, big they are, and okay, fine. They're not moving too much. They're there. They look fine. That works. Big crowd shots. That works. You know, dynamic shots that you can't get in 2D. Okay. Just having characters talking to each other, but for some reason they're CGI. Very out of place. Very awkward. Yeah. So I don't know. But it can be used very well. It can be used very poorly. Like anything, it's all about the execution. But I think there's more benefits to the actual content creator than there is for the actual consumer of the product, unless you're totally fine with CGI. Like I said, though, I think the majority is against it. But that's pretty much all I have to say. So what do you guys think of CGI in anime and manga? Or not manga, excuse me, in anime. What do you guys think of it? Do you tolerate it? Do you hate it? Do you love it? What are your guys' thoughts? I'd love to know. You can tell me down in the comment section below. You can follow me on Instagram or add me on PSN. I'm petplatypus on both. Petplatypus on both. Sound like I said Pat. Petplatypus on both Instagram and PSN. You can give this video a thumbs up. Share it on social media. Both those would help me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already, or if you like what you've seen here. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.